Kraham Talabany. Good morning,
Good
Sherri.
morning. Glad to be here. Thank you for welcoming me back.
Thank you so much for coming. When you first came in, you're like, whoa, you're impressed of the studio?
It was much neater and clean than the last time I came.
Oh.
And it's also been redecorated and expanded. I really like it.
That's
Fabulous.
great. So it's pretty good for the most part?
Yeah, it's great.
And you said your favorite part of the studio is what?
The new coffee machine, because you gotta have an espresso.
Well, here's the thing. We still don't know how to use it.
Oh, I can show you.
You can?
Of course.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much because we've been struggling.
Oh yeah, I pop about 6 a day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's a lot.
I know, but they're really small.
Yeah,
Yes, they are.
But like 6.
You know, I'm American, so that equals one large cup of Starbucks coffee.
Yeah. Okay. Good point.
So I like to have a cup of Joe in my hand every.
Well, you gotta have a cup of Joe if you are just, juggling so many things at the same time. You got the kids, you have everyday things, then you have what's going on with the Seed Foundation. When you first started this, it was I don't want to say it was easy, but it was, just starting. But now, after a few years under you guys' belt, you guys are busy.
Yeah,
You guys are
we've
very
grown
busy.
a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when Tanya and I started Seed in 2014, we focused on the development issues of Kurdistan, and we quickly got to trauma.
Yeah.
Because we were there was an ongoing crisis, but when you dig a little deeper here, everybody has been exposed to trauma and violence.
And something that hasn't been addressed until now.
Exactly, and so we need to both serve victims that have faced violence, protect others from being affected by violence, and improve our skills and capacity to help people.
So I've heard like a little bit about what Seed does.
Yeah.
And I heard you came out with this new report about trafficking. I think it was.
Yeah, so I'm here today to talk about our new human trafficking report and all of the work that we do to help survivors of modern day slavery.
Before we open the report,
Yes.
Let's first recap real quick. What does Seed Foundation primarily do, and where do they work?
Yeah, so we're a locally registered NGO, and we're a mix of international expertise and local staff and local know-how and understanding of the culture and the social issues that we face here. And our primary mission is helping survivors of violence in their recovery. So that includes people that have been displaced or affected by war, people that were in ISIS captivity, human trafficking victims, people with mental health issues. Gender-based violence is a huge part of our work. So women, men, children that are affected by violence in the home or in the public. Or
And the goal is to do what with these people? Like how do we care for these people?
So we deliver very high-quality mental health services combined with case management, which is basically we assess somebody's overall needs in health, mental health, their housing, their legal issues, protection issues, are they safe? We look at all of these issues, how they're connected to their community. We come up with a care plan with the client, and then we work with them to try to address those needs using other partners. We make referrals, we bring them to doctors, we try to help them build their resiliency and coping skills through therapy, help them function. Some people are so traumatized by their life experiences, they can't get out of bed. They can't care for their children. They can't function. And so our goal is to help people improve their overall well-being so that Kurdistan can be more stable, more safe, more democratic, more prosperous. And we think at the heart of all that is individual and community well-being and family well-being.
And with this work, you guys face some really horrible, heartbreaking stories.
Yes.
So, how is your staff able to do this on a daily basis to go and talk and meet with these kind of people?
So we have a really robust staff care and well-being program, and that means that if you're going to do good, you've got to feel good yourself, and that means you have to take care of yourself. And we do that through a number of ways. So for all of our staff, we do monthly activities, we do team events, breakfast club, right?
Yeah.
Park walks. This week we did a meditation where we all just threw off our shoes, sat on the floor, and our mental health advisor guided us through meditation. But we also do provide our service providers with mental health services, debriefings, self-care like art therapy, all kinds of meditation, yoga, and a full range of support so that we are taking care of ourselves so that we can deliver good services.
You have offices in Erbil and The Hague at the moment?
Yes, and we also have a Center for Mental Health at Koya University, which is a training center. There we try to develop lessons learned about our work with survivors and vulnerable people. And we train people. So we train NGOs, government workers. Right now we're training the Department of Combating Violence Against Women. It's a multidisciplinary police unit of the government. So we have a broad range of investments in improving Kurdistan's capacity.
All right, and before we get to the reports,
Yes.
Real quick, if you are interested in working with the Seed Foundation, if these topics are interest to you, they have a few openings, and I saw them. So guys, check them out. One easy, quick way is I'm looking at this one website that's really cool. It's called hawa.jobs, HAWA. Just type hawa.jobs and then look up Erbil, and then you will see Seed's logo and multiple job openings. Really great opportunity, amazing people to work with. So check it out. This could be something for your calling for you, you know?
Yeah, we actually have a whole range of new jobs on the human trafficking programs, and I think Seed's a great place to work. I think we're competitive with our pay, but we also take care of our people, and we're really all passionate about the work that we do to improve people's lives. And so if you're passionate about helping people, then take a look at the job opportunities.
I counted at least 7 different kinds of jobs, so look it up. I think it's close to even more. It's 10
Yeah,
maybe.
in the next couple of days, we're going to be rolling out these new jobs on human trafficking.
So you can look them up in any of these kind of job websites that exist, or probably maybe even you guys
Our
have information
website,
on your website.
seedkurdistan.org.
seedkurdistan.org. Okay, all right. So Sherri, but the reason why we have you here is because of this really important report that you guys have been working on in 2018. The human trafficking report in the Kurdistan region. This is a topic that a lot of people are I guess they're too scared to open up because it's a very sensitive issue. It might trigger different people. It might cause a bigger problem that's bigger than yourself. So let's first talk about this. How did you guys decide to choose this topic to work on? Why? And then what happened after you guys started working on this thing?
So Seed was created in 2014, and we had been preparing ourselves for about a year before we opened. And at that time, we had this human trafficking crisis. So it's a war with ISIS. But these women and children were both held in captivity, sold from person to person. Children were indentured into child soldiers. So that was one category. And then in my own life, it was the first time I ever had somebody working in my home, a Filipino nanny that worked with my kids. And she started bringing home stories of other people suffering in our community. And so, after a couple of months, my husband called it the Filipino underground, where I had people coming to my door to be rescued, because they were suffering abusive conditions. And that's what started our work with foreign workers.
That's a crazy story.
Yes, and so since then we've worked with many, many cases from many different countries, local cases, and so we found that the human trafficking issues were so compelling that this abuse of human rights, it's modern day slavery. It's happening where the people are exploited for the profit of others. Basically, that's human trafficking, and it's modern day slavery, and there are over 40 million people around the world that are currently living as slaves. And about 100, they estimate conservatively, this is what we know about 174,000 people are being trafficking victims here in Iraq today.
Wait, in Iraq? That's the number in Iraq?
That's a conservative estimate of people that are, and we'll talk about the different kinds of human trafficking, because all of your listeners see trafficking victims every single day, I promise you. So we're going to dive down deep into who we're talking about in a minute.
Okay, so that is a big number. Before we go, so you definitely agree that Iraq does have a problem. Also, the Kurdistan region has a human trafficking problem. Do you say that statement is true?
Yeah, so it's a growing problem. So people are trafficked to Iraq from other countries. People are trafficked through Iraq on their way to other places. And people are trafficked from Iraq to other countries, including from the Kurdistan region. And I'm really, our report has a detailed assessment about the Kurdistan region. It touches on other parts of Iraq. but it talks about both what we see and the needs of survivors, and all of the incredible work that we and our partners, including in the government, are doing to combat human trafficking.
And we're talking about various things. We're not just talking about trafficking people. You're talking about also like organ trafficking.
Yeah.
My God, people are now also trafficking like livers and kidneys and these kind of things.
Yeah.
Now?
So it's a broad range of different kinds of trafficking, and the war and the conflicts in Syria and with ISIS in Iraq exacerbated the vulnerabilities of people that were already vulnerable. Religious minorities that didn't have protection, women and children who are often victimized in Iraq. And so they're foreign workers, people that aren't able to assert their own rights. And so war and conflict and poverty makes many people victims, but also this happens to people that aren't poor. So we can talk about that too.
Yeah, so this 37-page report, Human Trafficking in the Kurdistan region of Iraq, is available on the website. What have you found? What are the key findings?
And I will add that we've translated the report into both Kurdish, and it's available in Kurdish and English on the website and in hard copy. So basically, we identified the 4 major types of trafficking that we see here in Kurdistan. The first one is forced labor. So when people are forced to work for no pay, long hours, poor conditions, that is considered trafficking because it's for the exploitation. The exploitation is for other people's profit. The second category is sexual exploitation or sex trafficking. And that's when people are forced to provide sexual services for money. They may or may not be allowed to keep the money, but they certainly didn't consent to this. The third area is forced begging, and I heard you talk about this so many times on your show, about the children that are forced to beg in the streets, and we can talk a bit more about the sort of intractable, complex issues that comes with forced begging of children. And then the fourth area is recruitment into the armed forces, and it's often children being used as part of military efforts. And that didn't start with ISIS. We can talk about that. So those are the main categories. There is
I don't know which
organ
one to choose. One is worse than the other.
Wait, I just want to start with the first one you talked about, because that one interests me. You said when people come to work for little or no pay in bad conditions. Are you talking about like some of us who have like Filipino workers at home? Are they being trafficked?
Or
Yeah.
even like companies.
So let me tell you about all of the different kinds of victims. So the first category is definitely the migrant worker.
Okay.
And so that could be a domestic worker in your home. Taking away her passport from her and her ID papers is a violation of her human rights. And it's also a violation of the anti-trafficking law that we have here.
So let's just, because there's lots of people listening. If your employer says, I need to be holding your passport, that is illegal.
Yes, it's
and
a
they should try to find a way to get it back.
So people are worried here that your worker will, and I'm putting this in quotes, run away. And let me remind people that people come here for work. It's an employment agreement. It is not slavery. You do not own them. These are not indentured servants. Slavery is not legal here in Iraq, in Kurdistan. And so when you hold somebody's identity papers, that limits their freedom, right? So other abuses that we've seen are they sign up for cleaning and they get forced into a sex job, or they come as a nurse for $500-600 and they're forced into a cleaning job. These are other examples. We have they don't have valid contracts. That's a form of trafficking. They're forced to work long hours. Every employee in Iraq is entitled to a full 24-hour day of rest. The legal work hours here are 8 hours. Okay, we all work more than 8 hours. I do. But people have to be compensated when they work more than 8 hours, and that's got to be part of the contractual terms. And so quite often, because these workers don't have the ability to assert their rights, they're in secret. They have no access to support, legal support or other support to assert their rights. And if you want to talk about some examples of our clients, I can share my experiences
Yeah,
with
go
you.
ahead, tell us.
So we had a client, because we mostly think about female victims, right? The woman in the home. And we've had experiences where they're not getting paid, or they're getting paid much less than what they were promised, and they don't get their day off. We've also had sexual abuse. We've had a case of rape recently where a woman was raped in her home. that she was working in by the employer. We had a case of two men. They were engineers. They were highly educated engineers from India. And they had a dispute with their employer about their working conditions. And the employer said, we are going to keep you in your apartment for the remainder of your contract 2 more years without pay and without coming to work. And so these men, by the time they contacted us through our website, they had been not working for 5 months without pay to send to their families. And so we were able to achieve a good outcome.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Sherri, when you come across these mind-boggling stories, are you in a position where you're actually supposed to rescue them? And what do you do?
I would caution everybody about rescuing people, because you don't know what kind of harm you could place somebody in when you take action. But in this case, they contacted us. They asked for our help. We asked them if we were allowed to work with the police to protect them. We relocated them to safe shelter, and we filed immediately a case with the police against the employer that they had been deprived freedom of movement because they didn't have their identity papers, their passport, and they didn't even have their Iqama. So that meant they can't leave their community, and they hadn't been paid. So we tried to negotiate with their employer. Legally, we wrote letters, we met with them, and the employer was refusing to participate. So we did file a case against them with the police, and they tried to help us negotiate. And we also used other connections to try to influence the employer. And in the end, these men went home. They got their back pay. They got their flight paid for. And now at least one of them is now working in Afghanistan, is very happy. So he had a really terrible experience here. In Kurdistan, his rights were violated. He was treated like the property of this employer, not like an employee with rights and with respect.
Sherri, that's a big deal what you're talking about right now.
Well, we've done, probably 150 cases like that.
My jaw is open, because we've never heard of solutions like this, and accountability. Accountability, what,
And we have great partners in the government that help us on these cases, too.
Yeah, but don't you think that the basis of all this is the actual companies that bring these people in?
So that's a big part of our work. I want to explain all of the different kinds of trafficking problems, and then we can get to the recruitment agencies.
The migrant workers.
Yes,
what is the next
workers.
one? That's the one of 4, right?
So the next one is local people. And it could be, when I say local or regional people, it could be Iraqis, Kurds, people from here, people from Syria, Turkey, Iran, neighboring countries. And so these people are generally mostly women who are promised jobs or marriage and are ultimately forced into prostitution. They could be, they were held captive by ISIS and sold like property. They were exposed to extreme sexual violence. There's also the lover boy method.
What is that?
Have you heard about that?
No, what is the lover boy method?
We call it the lover boy method. So this is where mostly young women, but it also happens to adult women, it also happens to men, where there might be a picture taken of this girl. It could be that she's involved in a romantic relationship with someone, or it could be they just take her face and put it on a naked body or a sexual picture. And they use that picture. The girl thinks it's a real romantic relationship, but the boy uses that to exploit her. And so he could sell her for sex after that because she doesn't want her family to find out that she was in a romantic relationship. Some of these girls are being trafficked out of the country. They're being trafficked to Baghdad and then out of the country. And some are living at home, but they're paying $10,000 to these men who are exploiting them. And it's happening all over the world, but it's happening more here. And I think because of the shame culture here where women are not allowed to date, they're so afraid of their families finding out that they had a romantic relationship. It leaves them extremely vulnerable. And so there's lots of laws to protect them. There's the Anti-Trafficking Law. There's Article 3, which is about using social media to exploit. And so we know that the police, if you go to the police, they can help And we provide services to these clients as well.
But I'm sure that the women that want to go to the police, they can't because they're afraid their family will know. So is there any way of them reaching out but their family is still not knowing? Is that possible?
So this is what SEED does. We do try to protect the confidentiality and the privacy of the victim at all costs, and we lay out their options. And yes, the police has also worked to protect. They obviously want to protect. They don't want to see harm come to these women.
Okay.
And we have very specialized police units. The Department of Combating Violence Against Women, DCVOW, and we also have the new Anti-Trafficking Directorate. So then the third area is survivors of ISIS captivity. And so these are men, women, children, mostly women, held captive with their children and sold for the purposes of sex and for money. And to get rid of this group of people. It's mostly Yazidis, but there are other minorities that have also been forced into this. And the other piece is forced labor and boys into child soldiers. So, this is a crisis we're still in the middle of because we still don't have all of the victims that were taken. And we're still looking, and there are many that are missing.
Can we talk about numbers? How many of these different cases have you found out?
Most of our cases, not all, but many of our cases are classified into these categories. Sorry, I just want to mention children and forced begging is also the fourth category that we've seen. So we do maybe 400 cases a year of people that were trafficked or at risk of trafficking, and they're all around us actually. And you may not know somebody that's been trafficked.
You said they're all around us, including that fourth category about kids begging.
Yes.
It's a very, topic that a lot of people want to talk about, but again, it's an annoying one. Kids coming up to you in the car and just knocking and banging and asking for money, and it's a controversial topic where, hey, should we give them money or should we not give them money? How do we know which one is? How do you find out which one is actually, being trafficked? Or how do you know? And what is the system? What's going on with this?
Yeah.
This is a different whole new underground.
It's a really complex network. So there are, I'm sure, many children in Kurdistan that are from poor families, and their family says, "We need the money, and we need you to go out and beg." But a bigger system here is at play with these criminal networks that force families to take their children, the women and children, out onto the streets, and you'll see them selling things. Whether they get to keep some or all of the resources that they raise is unclear. We do know that there are many abuses of these children. They're in dangerous positions in the middle of the road. Sometimes we see babies that are drugged or appear like they're drugged.
They're not normal.
Sleeping. Yeah. And they look malnourished. They're obviously dirty and not well cared for. And it's hard to know what is helpful to them. Whether giving them money actually benefits them or benefits the criminal network and feeds into this process. And that's an answer that I don't have for you. But I do know that this is a very complex problem. It's something that the government is concerned about. It's something we're concerned about, but it's not something that really is helped by individual interventions with one child. You might be able to help that child, but it is part of a broader system of poverty and exploitation.
So part of this poverty and exploitation and people actually trafficking people, sometimes it's the parents?
Sure, you can see the women out there with their children, and oftentimes women here are victims and they don't have the ability to consent or protest, and they're forced into these terrible situations because what mother doesn't want to protect her child, right? Of course, all mothers want to protect their child. And so I have a huge empathy for the situation that they're in, and smiles help, making people feel that there's a huge indignity about what they're doing, and it makes me feel really pain to see somebody suffer, of course, and somebody that has no choices in life.
For me, the first time I came to Kurdistan, it really affected me, but after you see it every day, you kind of become numb to it. They come up to you and you're just like, leave me alone, the window washers. But like, like you said, how do we help? Like, what do I do in that situation?
Tell them
What do you-
contact Seed. What should we say?
what-
Yeah. So there's a lot being done about trafficking in Kurdistan now.
Okay.
Seed has been working with clients since 2015, providing aftercare services, and our main goal is to protect people, to help their recovery. We also do a lot of work to prevent. So what is being done to prevent this from happening, and what are the sort of broad institutional changes that we'd like to see? So we advocated with many other NGOs in partnership with other NGOs for the government to respond. And several years ago, they set up a high committee for combating trafficking in 2016. And so the Department of Combating Violence Against Women had police officers that were working with these cases. And in 2018, in July of this year, we've been advocating for this new law, and it was passed.
What is it?
It criminalizes, it's called the Anti-Trafficking Law, and it criminalizes human trafficking. So any type of exploitation, you can see a long list of the crimes in our report. But this gives the government a real authority to address these issues. And so now they've created specialized police units called the Directorate for Anti-Trafficking.
There's
These
a
are-
director within KRG that's for that.
Yes, and
That's big.
And they have 16 police units all over Kurdistan, and these are specially trained officers. Well, actually, that's one of the things that we will be working with the government on, is to help train and build the capacity of these officers. And they work in partnership with NGOs on these cases. And this year, we're going to be partnering with the government to open a shelter for trafficking victims, because as our study revealed, shelter protection is a huge need for all kinds of trafficking victims. They have nowhere to go. People need a safe place, and we had used the government shelters for women many, many times, but they're not well suited for the kind of traumatic experiences that these trafficking victims face. They can't deal with foreign workers, and they don't protect men. So there was no shelter for men. So hopefully this summer and the coming months, our partnership, it's through funded by the U.S. government. It's a partnership with the government. We'll be standing up our shelter.
That's a big deal. Finally getting real life-impacting projects happening here in the Kurdistan region to make our society healthier. So obviously you guys have a lot of work coming up. That's why you have a lot of these job openings.
Yes.
That's kind of cool. This is really exciting. But despite all these horrible things that you're telling us, I read in the conclusion that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Why are you optimistic despite all these bad things?
So in many, many other governments, we see governments that refuse to respond. They deny there's a problem. They don't take action to enact laws or processes, or a law could be sitting on the books and they don't take action. And you can see all of that detailed on our website, because we have a new web feature, and it has all these international resources, including the U.S. Department of State's trafficking assessment of every country. And trafficking has been a problem in Iraq for a long time. And so now that the KRG has enacted a law and has these units, I think that, combating human trafficking doesn't mean it'll end completely, but I think that we can protect victims and we can prevent trafficking.
Yeah, because we don't want to have a reputation some other countries do, right, regarding this topic. We've heard about those countries, Dolawi, right, where they are known for just really treating illegal migrant work.
It's a lot of countries, but to be honest, until we had this conversation here today, I didn't
know it was that bad here either.
I saw the beggars. I just assumed that they just, but never like human trafficking.
Yeah, like
when I think about human trafficking, I think of a bunch of people in a crate headed for like America.
But there's different ways.
But apparently there's different types of human trafficking, and some people that are listening today actually have someone working in their home that might be human trafficked, and that's.
Well, I hope that today what everybody gets out of it is a greater awareness of the issues, and that each of us are motivated in ourselves to better treat the people around us with respect. We respect their rights, and we look at people as equals. Somebody that works for you is taking care of your children. Why would you want to abuse somebody that's got your most precious thing in the world in their hands? That just always amazes me. And so I am optimistic, because I think Kurdish people and the people of Kurdistan are, in their hearts, generous and kind people, And as victims here, almost everybody in Kurdistan has been a victim of persecution because of their religion, because of their ethnicity, and because of politics. You know, we have a long history of persecution here in Iraq. And so I hope that in Kurdistan, we can stand out in the region. And I think what the government's doing is standing out. And I think the people also can stand out in the whole Middle East for being the respecters of human rights here, and for just having a better system and more equality.
Yeah, we're better than that. And we want to show the world that we're better than that, right?
I agree.
Well, we're going to check with this to see what has happened after a year.
Yes.
I know it's not, a year sounds like
We
a
can
lot.
come back in 6 months.
But yeah, the thing is though, like this
Yeah.
this big of an issue requires a lot of time to
That's
address it
right.
and to tackle it and to change the situation. You cannot change the situation of human trafficking within a month or two. So you would need a lot of time. But
And
you
it
guys have
takes-
started already.
It takes also partnerships between, this is one of the reasons why we have to work with government. NGOs alone can't. This is a law enforcement issue. This requires the public justice system. It requires the health system. Requires the social system. And all of these disciplines need to work together. And people, the public, need to work together in partnership.
So what you're saying is that there is a way through all the annoying bureaucracy that we have here in the legal system to get things done. You have had things done.
It's really, really hard.
But it does happen.
Bureaucracy exists. I worked in the U.S. government for 15 years. It exists there too.
Yeah.
But Kurdistan is small and the people are well-meaning. And with those two things, you can get a lot done. And I see a strong commitment to these issues among a lot of different actors.
So you think within a few years,
We
maybe
will-
human trafficking, we can't eliminate 100%.
It'll
but
be a little better.
It will be a lot better.
I think we can dramatically decrease the risks. I think we can dramatically increase protections for vulnerable people. We can spot these issues. We can provide them justice through the legal system with the help of the police and the courts. So there's a lot that needs to be done, but I am overall optimistic, or else I couldn't be doing this work, right?
Yeah.
Aylan checking in saying the problem is in the lack of education and the injustice system. So these things need to be addressed. Education is it's a big part, huh?
Yeah.
So that we can make all of our citizens aware and how to get the help to a person that they know about.
And you're helping us with that today. And so I wrote you a little card to thank you for this and saying thank you for giving voice to the voiceless. Because today, starting with this, we're doing a 1-month campaign where every day we're going to be Facebooking and tweeting, and I'm not as social media savvy as my husband, but I think we're tweeting. And we don't do a lot of Instagram because look at these pictures, right? What do you take a picture of a victim? No,
Yeah.
we never exploit our clients. Never ever should we show people that are in trauma on our website. So we'll be doing a 1-month campaign, and the whole thing is to educate people. And so thank you for having me here to talk and give voice to people that can't speak for themselves.
Well, what work that you're doing is really amazing, and it's really important. So we should be thanking you, actually, Dalawi, right?
Yep. And if anyone is interested in reading this report in 2 languages, you can go on Seed's website, Seed Kurdistan. And,
.org.
I said
.org,
Yeah,
yeah.
.org. I meant the
.org.
Facebook because some people only use Facebook. A
Okay.
lot of people don't use websites. Yeah, you can check their website. It's on there. And you said they're going to have a 1-month campaign where you're posting things. So definitely
Yeah.
follow them to understand what's happening in your community.
Thank you so much, Sherri, for this information. This
Thank
is really
you.
wonderful.
Thank you for this
we'll get to-
opportunity.
We'll keep a copy of this report, and whoever guests that will come here on the daily here, we'll give them a chance to also read it. But you guys also do try to spread that report, because the more knowledge is being shared with each other, we will be in a healthier situation. My God, Sherri, thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you for your
had a
partnership.
shaking in the beginning with all these terrible things. Like, I don't want to end up like. Listen, the most important thing for me is my city. I love my city. I told you my second dream job was being a tourist guide of my city, and knowing that there's a possibility of your city having a filthy reputation like that is horrible.
So I do think there's so many well-meaning people, especially young people. The youth here really inspire me. They want to do something. They don't know always what to do or how to contribute. So we have to one of the things that you guys do is build civic engagement. And I love that. So thank you for helping me reach your audience.
Well, thank you so much. May you continue to do your work, and I know you have good family support. I mean, Kubat is always there for you.
He's my partner in this,
You
for
see?
sure. I bring him my cases every night. Poor guy. He has his own hard day at work, and I was like, let me tell you about this new case. Every day, 2 or 3 cases.
Best partner.
Yeah.
Great, 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 great. All right, so thank you so much. We're gonna go try to see if we can do the coffee now.
Yes.
Teach us how to use the
I
coffee.
will be happy to.
Anything else though before we let you go? You want to tell people?
No, just we do have these job postings. So if anything that I've said today inspires you, and you have any skills that can, help us combat this scourge of human rights abuses, come look at our jobs and apply.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sherri Kraham Talabany. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.